Hi, I'm Tim Berglund with StarTree. Welcome to Pinot 101, Architecture Minions. Now, I'm sorry if this disappoints you, but minion doesn't refer to the cute little yellow guys who talk funny, but it refers to a cluster component that runs kind of temporary tasks on a standby basis. If you've got something that needs to be done off to the side every once in a while, that thing, we call it a task, and it runs on a minion. So this is Pinot's built-in way of offloading potentially computational intensive work from other components like servers. You could imagine that we could create a mechanism where maybe I'd have some interface to implement and I make a task thing and I throw it at the controller and the controller gives it to the servers to run. Well, the server's already kind of busy processing queries. So minions are these little standby task executor components that do that work for us and also potentially have access to the resources of the cluster. Now, minions are most often involved in very ordinary things like segment creation for offline tables or segment purge or segment merging, things like that. So they are a very common part of the life of a cluster. And the great news is a number of standard implementations for these common tasks, like loading segments from some batch data source, come with Pinot, and you can write your own. There's an interface called Pinot Task Executor and Minion Event Observer that you can implement to create your own and run them in the cluster. If you've been with us through previous modules, this is by now a familiar diagram. This is kind of all of Pinot: the brokers, the servers, the deep store, the controller, and Zookeeper. Well, it's not quite all of Pinot because it doesn't have minion workers in it, and a typical cluster is going to need these. Now, they're appended here almost like I'm presenting them as an afterthought because you can be a functional Pinot cluster without them. Now, there might be some things that you won't be able to do, so it would be uncommon, but it is theoretically possible to be up and running and serving queries and not have those minion workers there. Let's zoom in here to the controller and these two minion workers. And I'm going to speak now in terms of actual Java classes and interfaces that are a part of the internal implementation of Pinot. In the controller, there's this class called the Pinot Task Generator, but more importantly, the Pinot Task Executor and Minion Event Observer. Those are interfaces that you implement to create your own, if you're going to create your own minion tasks. And the controller is then going to hand those off to the minion workers along with some task configuration. Those tasks are going to run, do whatever it is they do. And let's say that's something very active like creating a segment. That Pinot Task Executor could create a file gigabytes in size and put it in storage somewhere and push a pointer to the controller, and the controller is now ingesting a whole new segment. So this task isn't necessarily some little thing. It could do important work, and its current state is exposed by that Minion Event Observer, which the controller is able to see. There are REST APIs at the controller level that let you see what tasks are running in your extant minions. Even in the standard Pinot web interface, there's a tab that shows you those tasks that are running. So perfectly well integrated part of Pinot. Very normal thing of being a Pinot cluster is to have these minions running, and it's even extensible by you. Briefly, the code, clearly not intended to be a tutorial here on how to write your own minion, but the Pinot Task Executor is about what you'd think. There's method for executing the task. It gets configuration passed into it, and then you go do your thing. Now, Minion Event Observer is a little bit more complex. We get notifications for when a task starts. We can publish notifications for various kinds of progress, when we have success, cancellation, failure, and so on. So these are the two interfaces that you would implement when you're extending the minion task mechanism yourself. So those are the two interfaces you need to be aware of if you want to build your own minion, and it's just a great mechanism to be aware of.